Okay, today's lecture is going to be about cell organelles and their functions. An organelle is any part found inside of the cell and it does a certain function. It is similar to an organ inside of us. You have your heart, it helps to pump blood. But inside of cells, there are parts that do certain things. Okay? The rest of the items we are going to talk about today are all cell organelles. They have their own function and their own specific shape. The nucleus, for example, is found in the center of the cell. So if we have a cell, there is the nucleus. It helps to direct the activity of the cell. The reason for that is because there's chromosomes inside of it. I often tell people to think of the nucleus as the brain, and that it looks like a golf ball. Because this nucleus is surrounded by the nuclear membrane. The membrane is what's covering the nucleus, and this membrane has pores or holes which let material in and out. And so with the golf ball, the dimples are kind of analogous to the pores. It's where this material can get in and out of the nucleus. So we have the nucleus. The nuclear membrane covers this whole nucleus, and the membrane, think of the membrane as a covering, kind of like saran wrap. But the saran wrap is going to have holes in it to represent the pores. The nucleolus then is actually found inside of the nucleus. So this little circle here is our nucleolus, and it's going to be the helper to the nucleus by making ribosomes, and we'll talk about ribosomes later on. Also inside this nucleus are chromosomes. The chromosomes are what hold your DNA. You put many pieces of DNA together, you get a chromosome. The only time you can see the chromosome is when a cell is dividing. Their job is to help your body grow and develop. And they look like, under the microscope, just like little squiggly lines, almost like worms or like a bowl of noodles. So I just kind of tell the students, if they're going to put chromosomes in their cell project, think of spaghetti noodles. So if I were to draw chromosomes up here, I have just little tiny squiggly lines. Our next term is the cell membrane. Just like with the nuclear membrane, the cell membrane's job, it's a covering. It's going to be a covering for the whole cell. It's this barrier. It's going to have gates, kind of similar to pores, that let certain things in and let certain things out. Not everything can get in and out, only certain things. So it is called selectively or semi-permeable. All cells have a cell membrane. If you are a plant cell, you are also going to have a cell wall, which is found on the outside of the membrane, and its job is to provide protection. It's tough, it's rigid, it's giving extra support to the plant cell. It's kind of like a security guard. If you think about this classroom, the walls would be similar to a cell wall. The paint would be the cell membrane, and you as students would be kind of like the chromosomes in the middle of the nucleus. Then we have centrioles. They are usually only found in animal cells. They are going to work with another organelle known as a microtubule to help the cell divide and reproduce. So since they are helping with cell division, you're going to find them near the nucleus because the chromosomes will also help out with this function. And for the centrioles, they kind of look like Tootsie Rolls. They're always in pairs, so there'll be two of them hanging out near the nucleus to help with cell division. The lysosomes are mainly in animal cells. They are a sac-like membrane-filled part, so they look like this. They're just these little circles. They're filled with chemicals and enzymes. And their job is to clean, to break things down, to get rid of things that should not be there. So I tell people to think of the lysosome, sounds like Lysol. Lysol helps us to clean. So they are the cleanup crew, the garbage men of your cells. Okay, our next organelle is the vacuole. And with the vacuole is filled with water. It does this to give support to the cell. In plant cells, there's going to be a lot larger vacuole because plant cells are going to need more support than animal cells. Animal cells already have a skeletal system. Plant cells do not. So I tell the students to think of the vacuole, think of a shop vac. Sucking up water. Or think of a swimming pool. Okay? But it's giving extra support to these cells. Then we have the cytoplasm, sometimes called the cytosol. This is what all of these organelles are actually floating around in. Underneath the microscope, you can sometimes see some of these organelles move, and what they're moving in is this cytoplasm. It is a paste gel-like substance, so I think as students think of hair gel. It is clear. Then we have the mitochondria. When it comes to the mitochondria is made up of two membranes. Here's the outside membrane, and here's the inner membrane. And it's this inner membrane where all kinds of energy is made. That is the job of the mitochondria, is to produce energy. I call it the mighty mitochondria. It's mighty, it's full of energy. Or if you still know who Mighty Mouse is, Mighty Mouse had all kinds of energy. So mighty mitochondria. Then we have the ribosomes. The ribosomes are just little tiny dots floating around the cell. They are smaller than a lysosome. You could also find the ribosomes on what's called the rough endoplasmic reticulum, or the rough ER. They do not have a membrane around them, but their job is to produce proteins. They are producing proteins for the cell. I like to think of them as construction workers. Because proteins are going to do all kinds of things for your cells. They're going to build things and make things. Then we have the endoplasmic reticulum, which you can abbreviate ER. There are two types of them. There is the rough ER and the smooth ER. And the only difference is the rough ER has ribosomes on the outside of it. It makes it look rough or bumpy. The smooth ER does not have any of these ribosomes. But the ER's job is transportation. It's responsible for transporting proteins. And it's this membrane of folded sacs and tunnels, so it looks like this huge maze that is coming off of the nucleus. I cannot draw it very well, so I just kind of draw something like this. Okay, that would be the smooth ER. This would be the rough ER, and all those dots, are the ribosomes. Then we have an organelle called the Golgi body or Golgi apparatus. It's stacks of membrane sacs. It will take the proteins from the endoplasmic reticulum, package them up, and shoot them off to where they need to go to do their job. So with the Golgi, it is the packaging center, kind of like the post office. And I tell students it looks like a stack of pancakes that has this syrup coming off of it. And the syrup, those are those packaged proteins. And then at this point, when they get packaged, they're known as a vesicle. Okay. The next organelle are known as microtubules and microfilaments. They are two separate parts, but when referred to together, they're known as the cytoskeleton. So I hope that you know from the name, it's going to give support. So the microfilaments are made up of filaments. The microtubules look like tubes. And together they give extra support to the cell. The microtubules will also help in cell division when working with the centrioles. Okay. Now we have the plastids. The plastids are found only in plants, just like the name implies. Plastid, plant. There are three types. There's the leucoplast that stores food, kind of like a refrigerator. The chromoplast, which stores color. Chromo means color. And then the chloroplast, which takes the sun energy and turns it into food. So the chloroplast's job is to make food. So the leucoplast, the chromoplast, the chloroplast, the refrigerator, the color maker, the food maker. And inside of the chloroplast are these thylakoids, which get stacked up on top of each other to make something called grana. Thylakoid, 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 thylakoid. And it's in these thylakoids, or the stacks, that make the grana, where the chemical reactions take place in order to make the food for this plant cell. Chloroplasts do not make energy. That would be the mitochondria. The last few parts we are going to talk about are going to be parts that are found only in unicellular organisms. We have our legs to move around. Unicellular organisms, they don't have legs, they have cilia or flagella. Cilia are short hair-like extensions. There's the cilia. The flagella is like a tail. Sometimes there's one flagella, sometimes there could be two flagella, but the flagella will whip to help this unicellular organism move. The cilia will kind of beat like a beater on a mixer to help this unicellular organism move around. That's all of our organelles. Now I want to briefly and quickly talk about the organization of multicellular organisms. Cells come together to make tissue. Tissue come together to make organs. Organs make an organ system, which make a multi-celled organism. In the notes, I do have examples of these. We will be looking at onion tissue under the microscope. Organs, we can look at later. Organ systems, and then you are the multicellular organism.